up, Creep Cole? Welcome to your weekly Patreon bonus episode.
Bonus. Phil, I hadn't done that in a while.
I loved it. It was so good.
Pizzazz.
Yeah, so what we're doing this week is continuing with Alphabet Roulette, and it was V Week. So get out your V cards because we're talking about Vacancy.
No.
Yeah. When did you reverse that? When did you come up with that joke?
I think last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shows how much you listen.
No, I just knew it wasn't fresh. It had that old joke stank on it. So Tony,
Best if used by.
do you want to tell us first what made you choose Vacancy as your pick? Had you seen it before and you wanted to rewatch it? Or...
Yep, exactly that. Thank you.
That. Okay, cool. Glad I answered my own question.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd seen it, I think, either in theaters or like right when it was released on, at the time, probably video or DVD.
Yeah.
I'm an older bird.
I would say based on how this movie performed, there were probably quite a few vacancies in the movie theater.
And so, yeah, I wanted to revisit it. It seems like a cool little thriller, and it's fine.
Yeah, I think I had seen it for the first time a few months ago. So,
okay.
Yeah, so, I couldn't remember like anything about it except
there's
that
a
it took place
sequel.
at a motel. Yeah, all those movies have a bunch of sequels or at least one sequel. It's a prequel, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Vacancy, like the first cut or something.
Not interested. Tell us about this.
It's not even like a clever subtitle.
Yeah, they could have just called the second one No Vacancy.
Yeah.
Wait, that already existed, I think.
Oh,
Hotel was
yeah.
cool.
Tell that to every movie called Host or Hosts or... I've seen so many movies and TV shows in the past year called The Stranger. It makes me sick.
And we all know what the real stranger is. Anyway, this one's directed by
It's a move.
Nimrod Antal, written by Mark L. Smith, and produced by Walter Vacancy. Hal Lieberman.
Walter Motelman.
Anyway, starring Kate Beckinsale, Luke Wilson, Frank Whaley, and Ethan Embry. Wally? I don't know.
I forgot that Beckinsale was in this. I remember that
me
Luke
too.
was in it, but I forgot she was in it. I don't know how you forget Kate Beckinsale, but I did
Well,
somehow.
I would say it's a pretty forgettable movie overall.
Yeah, so...
I was watching it recently, as you obviously, and
That's good.
the title sequence came on. I was texting these guys, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm worried that this is going to be the most interesting part of the movie."
And then,
it's pretty close.
Yeah, and then like 90 minutes later, you were like, yeah, pretty much.
But I loved it though. Very like Hitchcockian.
Yeah, I think they almost shot themselves in the foot by doing such a cool Hitchcock Saul Bass homage title sequence. Obviously, the movie wears its Hitchcock influences. Well, obviously, if you watch it, it wears its Hitchcock influences on its sleeve and is supposed to be kind of an homage to those, people stuck in a place thrillers. Obviously, taking place at a hotel. I keep saying obviously, like everybody knows these things, but it takes place at a motel, similar to something like Psycho. But I do think that opening title sequence definitely sets you up to think that it's going to be a lot more complex and interesting than it ends up being.
Especially because like a labyrinth that slowly fades into the license plate. I was like,
Yeah, you're like,
super
oh
dope.
shit, we're gonna uncover. And the way the movie sets itself up too also leads you to believe that you're gonna be like descending into some like crazy underground society, or you're gonna learn all these crazy secrets. And it's like, nope, pretty much right off the bat tells you what's going on, and then that's the whole movie.
Yep.
Which we can tell the audience now what's going on in this movie.
Yeah, so basically it's a couple. They are fighting, and the husband takes a turn to get away from an accident and goes down the old dusty road.
Should have called this movie Wrong Turn.
Yeah, and but he did it on purpose. And the car breaks down under mysterious circumstances, so they go and stay at a motel. And then while there, get terrorized, I guess.
Yeah, so...
What I did like was the build-up of everything. I mean, yeah, I know, John, your opinion is that it's pretty by the numbers, but I feel like up until the point where they watch the tapes of the other murders and then the chase stuff starts happening, up until that point, it's pretty interesting. And then that's kind of where the movie just turns into every other movie like this. But that tension and the way that it builds during that scene where he's like, is this fucking room?
Mhm.
Like, that was cool. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that is cool. And then you're on that sense of discovery too. So yeah, for me, up until that point, I was really into it. And then after that,
That's not very long, though, before he watches
No,
the tapes.
I know.
Yeah, so...
So yeah, I mean, it's only like the first 15, 20 minutes, I think, tops. But then after that, like, I don't hate it, but it's not anything that we haven't seen before and after.
Well, I made a joke before we started recording about like, oh, we're talking about The Strangers today, right? Because I don't know which one came out first, but it definitely
Find out.
Yeah, I mean, it basically just plays out in that same styling, but there are both things that I really like about the movie and things that I am not a huge fan of, things that I like, and we'll be in spoiler territory at this point, so if you haven't seen the movie...
I mean, you already have seen the movie if you've seen just about any other movie.
Yeah, you're not missing anything crazy, and the spoilers aren't going to really blow your mind about, like, that was what was going on the whole time? Oh my gosh, they were aliens. No, like we said, it sets it up what's going on, and then it's just about this couple getting away from the people making the snuff films, and that's the whole movie. But
So, real quick, Vacancy 2007, The Strangers 2008, so right on the heels.
well, really, what I would say is that everything in this period of time is kind of rolling off of the success of Saw, and so this, I think, was trying to subvert the like early 2000s audience expectations, because right after Saw came out, everything like Hostel and all of that, which this also kind of reminded me of, especially with like the secret snuff film ring and all of that. Every movie was trying to be like the most fucked up thing you had seen, and every movie was like hyper nihilistic, and usually at the end nobody gets out alive, and it's horribly depressing, and that's what every movie was doing. So in this movie, pretty much the entire thing leads you to believe that that's what's going to happen to these people, is that they are eventually going to have the same fate as everybody else they've seen on these snuff tapes. And I think what disappointed so many people about the ending of this movie is that it kind of has a happy ending. Like they are smart enough and willful enough for Kate Beckinsale to basically run them all over with a car, and she, they survive, and it gives it kind of a happy ending. And I think a lot of people had their brains trained at that point to be like, I want to see them get horribly tortured. And that it never gets to that point. And I think you're waiting the entire movie for it to get to like its Martyrs level, hardcore French extreme area. And it doesn't want to do that. And so I think it fails in meeting audience expectations. And also, if it's trying to be a Hitchcock thriller, I think that's the creators and Luke Wilson, everybody said that was the idea. I don't think it's terribly effective on that front either. Like outside of the opening title and this taking place like, a couple people in a motel, there's not too much that's Hitchcockian about it, like in terms of the way it's directed or the style of it or anything.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so I think it kind of fails on both respects there. But what I do like about the movie is that it was trying to subvert expectations at the time for what everybody had gotten used to after Saw. I do like that the two main characters, they're not idiots, and they don't 100% make great decisions throughout the movie, but I like that it sets up that they hate each other, like they're livid about each other in the beginning, and that kind of like them being at their complete wit's end with each other and emotionally is what kind of helps drive them through surviving this ordeal, where every other couple that's been in this situation was probably just some hapless, happy couple that wandered into this motel, and so then these snuff film guys were able to take advantage of that like innocence and that softness and pull this off. And because they're not expecting this couple to be that sufficient and just fed up, they get kind of complacent about what they're doing. And so a lot of the like deaths of the snuff film guys come out of them just like fucking throwing themselves in front of Kate Beckinsale's car, thinking like, she's not going to get us. Like, we're going to get her. And then she just drives them through the fucking motel and kills them. And I think like that's a cool angle of this couple. Like, it isn't them just being idiots who are brutally tortured for 80 minutes. Like, you do get a little bit more agency from those characters, and it does create enough tension to make it a somewhat enjoyable experience to watch. Yeah. At least you're wondering what's going to happen next, as opposed to being like, I don't fucking care what's going on.
Yeah, they make solid decisions, you're right. But my biggest concern with them as characters is just that they aren't likable. And I think some of that is going with the trends of the time, which were making your main characters not likable, so it's
awful people getting awful punishments.
Exactly. Yeah. But in this case, if our want is by the end of this movie for them to have survived, Like there needs to be redeeming qualities. And aside from the fact that they make good decisions occasionally, they're like, I mean, I'm not a big fan of.
I don't have sympathy for him.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Luke Wilson calling Kate Beckinsale a bitch and shit like that. It just doesn't give anything to me as the audience member.
He doesn't pull that character off.
Yeah, and
he's too nice.
And I don't think you really buy that this experience has really like rebonded them together in the way that the movie tries to make you think.
At the end,
at the end is that like now they've fallen back in love through this horrible ordeal, and it's like I don't really buy that, and so I don't care. By the end you stop caring because you realize like, and then it ends so abruptly that you feel like you got tricked into like being strung along for the 80 minutes or whatever that this is. That's another benefit, is that this movie is not very long. But no, I totally agree, and I didn't know this ahead of time, and I wish I had, because I feel like it really would have informed my experience with the movie. But Luke Wilson was a complete fucking asshole on set during this movie. He pretty much every day would show up hungover and unprepared for what he was doing, which is probably part of why he wasn't able to pull off the role. And Beckinsale is a professional actor, and she wanted to try to play the role. And
I think her performance was good.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't get this whole backstory, exactly what happened with their son. And so I think that was underdone a lot. And,
we just kind of, like, we're led to believe that she caused something that caused an accident that killed him. And so he has, like, animosity or whatever. But
she does, I think her performance is fine.
Yeah, I guess he, in scenes where she would need to be, like, talking to his character, but he'd be off screen. Typically, you would have the actor come in and stand off screen so that Beckinsale would have somebody to read to. And Wilson refused to be on set and sent his stand-in to do it instead. So then she got to the point where when he had to read to her off camera, she just sent a photo, like a headshot of herself with a note that said, "Use this instead of me. It'll be easier on both of us." So they like hated each other during mostly because he sounds like at the time at least, a fucking douchebag. So that to me like would have played into like the animosity between their characters, knowing that was actual real life, like, seething hatred off screen. But that would have probably been the most interesting part of the movie experience for me. Other than that, I don't have too much to say about the movie. Like you said, it's very by the numbers. It's
boilerplate.
It's one of a million of these kind of movies that came out during this time period.
I think if I had watched it at that time, it might have been slightly less predictable, but watching it now, most movies that are like this are exactly like this.
And it pulls its punch. It's one punch it pulls.
Yeah. Kill Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
You have one job, kill Luke Wilson. And you don't do that, and then kind of like pussyfoot around about it. Like, I mean, because he would have died to that wound, guaranteed. He probably,
unless he's not living in Scream 6.
As soon as the movie's over, his character probably died. But by not letting us see that, I mean, it kind of, like I said, it's very weak about that type of thing. The setting's not bad though. I mean, like they do a really solid job of making this place seem creepy. But as soon as you meet even the very first guy, the guy at the gas station, you're like, all right, so literally everybody we meet from this moment to the end of the movie is an asshole. And
it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing where you're like, cool, so everybody from this point on is in on whatever's going on. And we know it's exactly Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like any attempt they are going to try to make to get help or get out of this is either going to be somebody who's too bumbling and stupid to actually help them, or somebody who is part of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
And it's all shit we've seen before.
I mean, the cop did his best. He was like, okay, I'm going to explore this without you. I see something's going on. I'm going to go. Like, he didn't just get ganked out of nowhere.
Yeah.
At least he was tried.
He's a cop, so he already loses points for the profession. But
A-cab, motherfucker.
Yeah, I just think that the movie could have done something a little bit more interesting with its premise, and I'm a sucker for a premise like this, which is why it's also falls into that category of, ooh, cool idea that you just didn't do enough with. Because to me, that's a totally real life thing that could happen. Like, you show up to some seedy motel in the middle of nowhere and you find out that it's, because that's just shit happens in real life. Like, snuff films are made in real life, in real hotels and motels. Sex trafficking rings, things like that. Like, you never know. You stay at a place, you never been in the middle of nowhere. Could be some fucky shit going on behind the scenes. Yeah? You were part of a snuff film?
No, I was in a hotel and somebody walked in the middle of the night.
That's
The guy gave him the
Creepy as
wrong
fuck.
key.
that's horrifying.
So luckily I had the latch thing over, but like I heard them like shuffling, and I grabbed my knife, and I was like, if that person almost got stabbed.
Yeah,
I was ready to go.
it's a good thing you didn't have a gun.
Yeah, but yeah, I was like, well, hey man, like there's somebody in here.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they gave me my money back. And I was like, you fucking let somebody into my room. Like, you could have got a person killed or hurt or scared.
Or worse,
Yeah,
expelled.
very scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
so
I said, I
just,
mean, that shit happens.
Yeah, so I just think that it's a cool, creepy premise that... Oh, and the other thing that I appreciate is, like, I get that what they were trying to do, because another one of the big complaints about the movie was that there's not any, like, real gore or anything, and I'm pretty sure that the creators here, one, going the Hitchcock route, and two, also trying to do what the original Saw did, because the original Saw is not a very gory movie, and James Wan has said he was trying to go for like a modernized Hitchcock style of revealing the mystery and stuff in that movie, and so they were trying to do something wearing that influence more on their sleeve in this movie. And so most of the snuff film stuff, like somebody will walk in front of the TV like just in time to block out the most horrifying moment, or you only see it in the reactions of the characters watching the films. And, you know, that's always, it's a classic. It's scarier if you can imagine what's happening to the people than if you actually see it. So I appreciated that, because I'm not Ben from Extreme Horror Replay, so when it comes to really, really fucked up, brutal shit, it's not really my style these days. There was a period of time where I was like, I'm so desensitized to everything that I'm going to go check out all these French extreme movies, and then I was like, yeah, maybe I don't want to watch movies that just make me feel sick to my stomach.
Dirty all over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind when the artistic choice is made to go one way or the other. I think if you're going to lean heavy into gore, then do it well. If you're going to choose to create barriers and allow the reaction of your actors to be where you see that gore, I mean, I think that both play well depending on what audience you're shooting for.
Well, and a perfect example of a movie that leans heavy into the gore is The Ring, because it's directed by Gore Verbinski.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. Very much.
But like you were saying before, it's like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre again. I mean, that's another movie where like the expectation is, oh, this is going to be very gory, and it's mostly because of the tension that's built in those moments, and then
The hot tension.
you do the rest of the work. You know, they don't actually really show much. It's just the concept enough is like it creates that like ugly pit of tension.
Yeah, I rewatched Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation last night. And,
Is that the one with
McConaughey
Mahogany?
and Mahogany and with his fucking remote controlled robot leg.
Yeah.
And I found that movie much scarier than this movie, and was like, ooh, okay, I have a new appreciation suddenly for this. Maybe just in comparison to Vacancy, but
I would say overall it's a fine movie. It's kind of like if you want to show somebody who's not really super into horror, like you could put this on and it would get the job done.
yeah, it'll get them sweating a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like potato chips, but the bag got left open for a little bit. It's just a little stale.
I love that.
There you go.
All right, and
Let's
with
end on
that,
that. Yeah.
yeah, let's end on that perfect note, and let's see what we're going to be covering for the W's.
Yes.
What were you?
I went with Weird Science.
Weird Science. I went with Watchmen.
And I went with My Widow Willie's Willy Wet. No, I went with Warlock, starring Julian Sands.
Spin them. Spin
I think it's
the
gonna be
wheel
John
of
doing it.
endless
I'm guessing-
possibilities.
I'm guessing John.
I need a win.
It happened! Spin again, Michael Finnegan!
Oh shit! Have we ever?
It's
had
never
a spin
happened.
again? Well, we're spinning again.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Respin that wheel.
Spin that wheel, you motherfucker.
Come on, baby.
We gotta spin the wheel. We gotta spin the
Wubba-lubba-dub-dub.
wheel. We gotta spin
No, I
the
can't say
wheel.
that
And it's
anymore.
Weird Science.
Science. I did say before we recorded that I have personal reasons for wanting to rewatch Weird Science, so
Not going to be confused with Real Genius.
which I constantly got confused with, about when I was younger. But this is it Anthony Michael Hall?
Yep.
Old Evil Dies Tonight himself.
Such a weird transition career-wise.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Just turned into a potato man.
He also was in the TV show Dead Zone.
Yeah,
So
sure was.
As Mr. Dead Zone.
As the Dead Zone himself.
Oh, DZ.
Well, if you're watching this when it comes
DZ
out, thanks
notes?
for watching. If you're watching this in like August at some point when this goes up on YouTube, thanks again for watching. And tune in next week, and also check out our main episode. The timelines are all going to be fucky with
No, we're on
with when
track.
people
This
watch.
is coming out with mine.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm saying that like when I release this on YouTube, it probably won't be until way down the line in August. So I'm saying go check out the episode where we cover Big Trouble in Little China and Super 8, which are Tone's last rites, his picks for movies that he has always wanted to cover on the show.
Yep.
And I'm excited to talk about them.
Me too. So we're going to get to it. Thanks again. We will see you next week with Weird Science.
Ooh, weird.
Keep it creepy.